Okay, so my story is called Don't Forget the Chihuahuas. It's a 100% true story. My mom was there. She can vouch for me. What are we not going to forget? The who? Y'all are going to forget. I guarantee you're going to forget. Don't forget the Chihuahuas. So I live on a dead-end street, and it's the same dead-end street my grandparents lived on for ages. And our neighbor right across from us had a horde of Chihuahuas. Like, like Pigpen and how he had dust fall on them? Okay, but imagine that with Chihuahuas. Okay? And they sort of, ran the neighborhood, and they were kind of, not nice at all. Like, they're rude Chihuahuas, where they just stand in the middle of the road, and they just be like, hit me. Try. And we'd all be like, I want to, but I'm human. I can't do that. And they'd, of course, emotionally torture my dogs. They'd just get in the yard, and we have a glassed-in porch, and they'd just stare at them through the door. And my dogs would be going wild. And they were just mean little Chihuahuas. And I liked them. I thought they were cute, but they weren't cuddly. You couldn't pet them. And they just had attitude, you know what I'm saying? But I think they were more mindful of what was going on in our neighborhood than even I realized. So after my first year of college, my grandfather got diagnosed with cancer. It's a sad story. I'm sorry. Don't forget the what? Thank you. Okay. So anyway, so he had cancer. And I spent my summer with him while he was sick. And for a while, it was pretty much normal. We just counted the days by how many scoops of ice cream we had. It was pretty awesome. I was really into it. And it got to the point where, we knew we needed help, beyond what we could provide. So then my mom came, and we basically moved in with my grandparents, right? And I remember one day distinctly, we were all sitting on the couch, and the couch has 3 cushions. So it was my nana, it was my mom, it was me, and it was like 3 generations of this family on this couch watching a man with a medical van set up a hospital bed in our living room. And there's nothing worse than seeing a piece of equipment like that in the middle of your living room where your grandfather's recliner used to be. But now, after he had gone this whole long spiel about, I want to die in my house, not the hospital, he was like, I want to die in my bed, not the hospital bed. And so that was a whole different can of worms we had to deal with, right? Because we can't keep him in the back of the room, back of the house. He needs to be in a central location, right? And it was just like this ongoing battle. And with all this family in town, I ended up sleeping on the hospital bed until we could finally convince him to get into it. And when that happened, it was like this big ancient door that you've seen a billion times finally creaked open. And there was nothing you could do. And you had to be sucked into it. And we were on this journey with him until it was over. You really had no choice. And sometimes you just know when that's happening, when you're on a roller coaster that you didn't even know you were strapped into, you didn't even know it was available in the middle of your living room. Sometimes you just know. So finally, he gets into the hospital bed. We could finally convince him. Because as the cancer spreads, he becomes a little bit more delirious. He knew he didn't want to try and fight it. He was like, I've had a good run. It's, this is how I'm going to go out. Okay. Finally get him in the hospital bed. People were circulating through our house in an unbelievable way. People were coming in and out of our house all the time. And in a situation like that, it's interesting because of what they say or what they try to come up with. And people all the time will, tell me what I can do for you. And a lot of people will be like, we're fine. We're just suffering emotionally, but we're fine. But I think, grief is a good time to ask for stuff. So I was like, if y'all want to bring some cake, that'd be cool. But unfortunately, I was the only family member making requests, so people just kept bringing desserts and desserts. And adults should have stepped in and been like, bring some vegetables. You know what I'm saying? We had our refrigerators packed full of all sorts of dessert casseroles, things I've never even heard of. So anyway, that's my tip. Next time you're grieving, ask for stuff. It's fine. One woman came by and she somehow extracted me from my family group, unfortunately, and got me onto the porch with her to have this long, sober discussion about death. And I was like, okay, this is a nightmare. And she turns to me and she gives me the worst piece of advice I have ever heard in my entire life. Now, at the time, I couldn't figure out what was so messed up about it, but now I've had time to reflect. But she sat down and she looked me in the eye and she said, Shelby, you have to be strong for your family. At this time, I was 19, 20 years old. I have to be strong for my family? If she was any kind of person now, she should have said, fall apart. I will be there to help put you back together. What a nightmare thing to say. Because what I heard when she said that is, oh, you can't cry. You can't let your family see you cry. Because it'll hurt them. And you don't want to hurt them. You have to be strong. So sometimes you just know in a moment like that that's wrong. Even if you can't put your finger on it. So another piece of advice. Never tell someone who has a suffering and dying family member in the next room to be strong. So my grandfather was a pastor. And he's a very prolific pastor. And the community that he worked in, everyone knew him. And he was one of those people that, if you talked to him, you felt like he had a direct line to God. Like maybe if you went into his desk and you opened up the bottom drawer, there'd be a big red telephone, and he'd pick it up, and it'd be, hello, this is God speaking. That's how it seemed. There isn't one. I checked. If you're curious, there isn't one, but that's how it felt. And I would watch people come and see how they'd interact with them. Because at this point, you're not interacting with a person because he can't communicate back. He's just withering away and we're just biding our time. And I would watch them try and put this moment together in their head. And sometimes you just know what people are thinking. And they would look at him and think, if this man who has this direct line to God is suffering this much when he dies, what's going to happen to me? And you could just see it across their faces, this worry that what's going to happen to me? And then in the middle of all that are the hospice nurses. And hospice nurses are like people plus amazing. If you've ever had be close to a hospice nurse in any situation, they have like the best way of speaking with people. And somehow they always know what to say. And they always know how to make you feel better when you don't even know what better feels like anymore. And so one morning I get up and I've like given up on like getting dressed because like what's the point? And then I got up in my pajamas, hair's a mess, whatever. Hospice nurse is already there. My mom's up, Nana's up. We're all monitoring the situation. I sit down at the bar and we're talking, and the nurses are doing their thing. You know, they always have their routine, getting blankets, checking things. Well, where's the medicine? How's the medicine doing? Checking supplies. He's gone. What? He's gone. One of the nurses, as she was covering him up, told us he stopped breathing. We say, okay, he stopped breathing. And we all take a moment for ourselves, and the hospice nurses are quiet. And we're all quiet. You know, we're crying because it's a relief, but it's the worst kind of relief imaginable. And then suddenly, did y'all forget? On the back steps of our porch, one of those little chihuahuas has his snout pressed against our door. And as soon as my grandfather dies, again, he starts howling. Even the tear on my cheek has stopped to say, what is going on? And we turn and we look at each other like it's a sitcom. We can't figure out. My mom turns to the nurse and says, what's happening? And of course, the hospice nurse always has an answer. She says, animals. They just know. Thank you.